Hi, it's Katrina.
Number 10. The Monsters of Hollow Earth. For thousands of years, people have believed in an underground world hiding beneath the surface of our own world. The ancient Greeks believed there was a dark land filled with the souls of the dead. In the 17th century, the leading scientific minds believed there was a mirror world underneath the surface, a world within the hollow of the earth, filled with its own atmosphere, its own creatures, and its own exotic landscapes. They called it the Hollow Earth theory, and many of the most intelligent people on the planet supported it. These days, science tells us a dramatically different story. We know the Earth is made up of crusts, liquid magma, and a hot core of shifting iron and nickel. There is nowhere for an entire world of beasts and lands to exist. It's just not feasible. But in 1692, when the Hollow Earth theory was proposed, it was revolutionary. The first person to officially speculate about a world within the hollow marble we live on was Edmund Halley, the man who Halley's Comet is named after. Edmund suggested that the planet is nothing but a series of spherical shells, all spinning in different directions. He believed the space between each shell was large enough to have its own atmosphere, which could support life. During the years that followed, more scientists speculated on what these hollow Earths might look like. The theory grew and changed until instead of many shells, the Earth was entirely hollow, with one huge cavern underneath miles of rock. Some even believed there to be a small sun hanging in the center of the Earth. This miniature sun supposedly created an environment within the planet even more beautiful than the environment on the outside. The Hollow Earth theory went on for a shocking amount of time, only losing traction in the 20th century when most people agreed it was nonsense. Number 9. Ancient subterranean war tunnels. In 1948, the small village of Yongqing in China's Hebei province experienced a massive flood. Villagers were running for their lives when suddenly the water was diverted and began to drain away, sparing the people. It was later discovered that the floodwater had been diverted by a mysterious underground passage that nobody knew was even there. Moving forward to 1951, a house in the same town abruptly imploded. It caved in on itself to expose a subterranean cavern. Within the cavern, villagers found dozens of doors leading to dark and creepy passageways. This was a major archaeological discovery. It soon became clear that underneath the village of Yongqing was a series of ancient war passages used centuries ago. These tunnels and caverns were used to shelter troops during times of war. There were military facilities, camouflaged exits, locking gates, and heated brick beds. But most impressive were the miles and miles of tunnels. They had been designed in such a way that an army could flank an invading enemy and attack unsuspectedly from the rear. It's doubtful the full extent of these war passages have been uncovered, even today. They had likely been used by the Song dynasty from between 960 and 1127 AD to defend their territory. They were constantly at war with the minority races to the north, the Khitan and the Jurchens. These secret passages were used like a wall, only underground. Enemies had no hope of moving beyond the underground wall, as the soldiers hiding down in the tunnels would spring up like rats and obliterate any invading force. Number 8. The Carnivorous Plant. In the dark and humid jungles of Borneo, Indonesia, a mysterious plant has just been discovered. An international team of scientists identified a new species of pitcher plant called Nepenthes pudica. For those unfamiliar with the pitcher plant, it's a rare carnivorous plant shaped like a water pitcher. It's such an enticing plant that insects can't help but crawl into its mouth, at which point they slip in and get stuck. Then they get dissolved in the plant's digestive juices. The newly discovered pitcher plant is a little different than the others in that it utilizes a unique method for feeding. According to Martin Dankak from the Department of Ecology and the Environment at Pulaski University, the pitcher plant behaves differently from any other known species. It places its traps underground instead of above the surface, hiding its traps in cavities underneath the soil. Instead of waiting for creatures to crawl into its mouth, it grows traps under the ground to snag tiny invertebrates like ants, mites, beetles, and other subterranean critters. The plant does this by growing a short underground stem. It's almost like growing a root, except this root produces leaves and pitchers, all under the soil. The pitcher will then attract the invertebrate, and the insect will get stuck and slowly digested. Number 7. The tunnels. Underneath Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital in Ontario, Canada, there is a network of dark and creepy tunnels. The psychiatric hospital opened in 1889 just outside Toronto with one goal: to help the mentally ill. It was built as a series of Gothic cottages as an alternative to a prison-like asylum. The patients were encouraged to farm, garden, and even help in the construction and maintenance of the property. It was the patients themselves who played a major role in forming the foundations of the hospital. Unfortunately, a rapidly increasing population destroyed this kind of community work. The patients were pushed into forced labor, the place was filled up way too quickly, violence broke out, and by the 1950s, things were completely out of hand. The hospital kept on running until 1979. Then it was mostly abandoned. People still worked and lived on the grounds, but its days as a mental hospital were finished. The nearby cemetery is all that remains now of those who had called the asylum home. But what's underneath the Lakeshore Psychiatric Hospital? The tunnels run from each individual building to the next, creating a kind of maze underneath the property. These tunnels were said to be used by the facility to move patients without others seeing. There were also rumors that the hospital became so burdened that unwanted patients were taken down into the tunnels to be burned and disposed of. These rumors have never been proven true. The official story is that the tunnels were simply made so that the staff could move more efficiently from one ward to the next. Would you be brave enough to explore these tunnels? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already for more videos like these. Number 6. Billions of organisms. Scientists have just discovered an ecosystem underneath the surface of the planet. The ecosystem is about twice as large as all the oceans in the world combined. It's a rich universe hiding beneath our feet that no one ever knew about. There is no light, extreme heat, and almost no nutrition. Plus, the subterranean world is at the mercy of intense pressure. But even in the face of all these seemingly impossible impediments to life, the underground biosphere is brimming with it. Scientists have estimated there are roughly 23 billion tons of microorganisms, outweighing the combined weight of every person on the planet. This incredible discovery was made with help from researchers at the Deep Carbon Observatory. They claim the diversity of this mysterious underworld is similar to that of the Amazon or the Galapagos. Yet, unlike those environments, this one is pristine because humans have yet to ruin it. It's the hollow earth theory brought to life, but on a microscopic scale. Karen Lloyd from the University of Tennessee said the discovery has been like finding a new reservoir of life. So, what exactly is living underneath our feet? After 10 years of study, including the combined brain power of 1,200 scientists from 52 countries, we have the answer. These great minds say that 70% of the bacteria and archaea on Earth are living beneath the surface. Some organisms live so deep that they haven't seen daylight in millions of years and no longer function using energy from the sun. Some of these creatures have found a way to create their own methane to fuel themselves. It's a whole world of strange microscopic organisms, many of them single-celled, all living up to a mile deep. Number 5. Underground Alien Base. Underneath Archuleta Mesa on the border of Colorado and New Mexico, near the small town of Dulce, there is supposedly a secret underground facility. This facility is allegedly operated by both humans and aliens. It's never been proven, but the rumor has been around since at least 1979. That was when businessman Paul Benovitz realized he was intercepting electronic communications just outside Albuquerque. He believed he was picking up some kind of communication from a secret underground base. It's unclear exactly how he came to this conclusion, but he was so convinced that in 1983, his story went national with the popular press. And by 1987, the story was entrenched in the UFO community. Famous UFO conspiracy theorist John Lear even claimed he had independent confirmation of the existence of the base. All these years later, Dulce Base is nothing but a fantasy and a myth. It could be real, but nobody has ever been able to prove it beyond a reasonable doubt. Still, the rumors persist that the United States government is working here in conjunction with extraterrestrials, mostly kidnapping humans and using them as guinea pigs in genetic experiments. Some believe the aliens are working with our own scientists to try and create a new and improved human species. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Number 4. Secret World War II bunker. There is a secret underground bunker hiding 73 feet beneath the busy streets of London in England. Black rooms, crumbling passageways, and faded warning signs can be found in this lost place. The mostly abandoned network of tunnels was once crawling with the most important people in the British government. During the days of World War II, the bunker was used as a secret hideout from which top leaders planned everything from the Dunkirk evacuation to the landings at D-Day. Britain's famous Prime Minister, Winston Churchill, was locked down here in the cold and damp throughout all of November and December of 1940. That was when the German Blitz was at its height. The Nazis were bombing London mercilessly, and so the Prime Minister had to stay safe underground. While this may sound really uncomfortable, it was surprisingly civilized. Staff was already working and living down in the tunnels like bureaucratic rats. They would surface for air only once every 10 to 14 days. The showers may not have been great, but at least there was good food, crystal diningware, a fully staffed kitchen, 2 mess halls, and everything else needed to keep the machine working. After the war, the bunker wasn't needed anymore. It was eventually abandoned, and these days is only accessible through a booked tour. Number 3. Dark matter underground. Scientists are currently working a mile underground in hopes of discovering the undiscoverable. Beneath an old gold mine that's no longer in use, inside a giant titanium tank, scientists are on a mission to find dark matter. These bright minds are convinced that dark matter, a completely invisible material, makes up almost the entire mass of the universe. They say it's all around us, that we wouldn't exist without it, and yet they don't technically know what it is. It's one of the greatest mysteries researchers haven't been able to solve. They are hoping to get a little closer to the truth deep underneath the town of Lead in South Dakota. The idea behind this secret underground lab is that a mile of solid rock, a large tank of pure titanium, and a secondary tank will block the cosmic rays coming from space. Hopefully, if the team can block the cosmic rays and cosmic particles, they'll be able to identify dark matter particles. All they really need is a single dark matter particle to slip inside a vat of liquid xenon, which they have hiding inside the innermost tank, and collide with a xenon nucleus. If this happens, a flash of light will go off, and dark matter will finally be confirmed. This search has been a long time coming. Scientists only recently announced that after 5 years and $60 million, they have finally gotten to work hunting for dark matter. There was a big delay because of COVID, but now everything is moving at full steam. The only issue is that as of right now, this subterranean base hasn't found anything yet. Number 2. The Monument Lab. One of the most famous landmarks in London is something called the Monument. It's a tribute to the Great Fire of London in September of 1666 that utterly decimated the English capital. The monument is 202 feet tall, a single column with spiral steps running around the inner wall. It looks like any other monument, and it's visited by hundreds of thousands of people a year. But underneath the monument is a secret. The architect, Sir Christopher Wren, wanted to prove once and for all that the Earth orbits the Sun and not the other way around. When the monument was built between 1671 and 1677, the agreed science was still that the Sun revolved around the Earth, and that the Earth was at the center of the universe. To pursue his scientific endeavor, Sir Christopher Wren designed the monument to also be a scientific instrument. Underneath the base, a central shaft was carved to be used as a zenith telescope. The whole structure was designed to hold an underground laboratory, accessible only through a small hatch in the floor, which is currently hidden by the modern ticket booth. At first, it was a big success. The underground lab could be used for gravity and pendulum experiments, and for viewing the stars. The issue was that the above-ground traffic caused the whole place to tremble, which very quickly rendered it useless. Number 1. Underground Research Laboratory. The Underground Research Laboratory in Manitoba, Canada, was an experimental test site for the storage of nuclear waste below the ground. It was operated by Atomic Energy of Canada Limited, built inside a huge granite batholith between 1982 and 83. Scientists stored a large amount of radioactive material inside the research laboratory, then sat back to see what happened. They studied measurements on water exchange, rock movement, and anything else that could theoretically jeopardize the safety of the radioactive materials. The idea was to store all toxic waste deep in the ground so it didn't pollute the environment. Unfortunately, we don't know what else went on at the site or even how the experiments went. We know there were other international users there doing something, and in 2003, the decision was made to shut the lab down. The radioactive waste was supposedly cleaned up, and the underground base was closed. Now this site is supposedly home to only one experiment. International scientists are measuring water leakage through a gigantic clay plug. Thanks for watching! Which of these underground secrets did you find the most fascinating? Let me know in the comments below, and be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. See you soon! Bye!